All right, so here, so again, we're still working with lines, right? And if you remember last time, we saw the standard form of an equation of a line. It's going to be ax plus by plus c equals 0. Essentially, the x, there's only two variables, x and y, and their exponents have to be 1. I mean, in that case, you don't write the exponents, but you can't have something like y squared or x cubed or the square root of x. You can only have x and y in there. So like, for instance, with this example here, you will get a line. The graph of it, in other words, is a line. Right? Remember, the graph of an equation, you're plotting all the points that are solutions to this equation. So we're going to do that here. Now remember, whenever you sketch the graph of a line, you really need 2 points on the line. Now, 2 points I decided to find were the y and the x-intercept. And remember, for the y-intercept, you're going to set x to be 0, okay? And then you have to calculate y. So that's what I'm doing here. So for the y-intercept, we replace x by 0, and we're going to solve for y. So when x is 0, 3 times 0, right? That's gone. Minus 4y plus 1 is 0. So all we're going to have is this. Okay. So we have to solve this equation for y. That's not so bad, right? We want to isolate y. So we subtract 1 from each side, as you can see. And we get negative 4y equals negative 1, okay? But remember, we don't want minus 4y, we want just y. So we can divide both sides by negative 4. So from here, we divide both sides by negative 4. And over on the left side, you'll just get y, because the negative 4s will cancel. And you'll have y equals 1 over 4. You know, negative 1 over negative 4 is the same as 1 over 4, which is 0.25. So we have this point, which is on the line. Not only that, this is the y-intercept. You know, this is where the graph, this is the point where the graph intersects the y-intercept, the y-axis. And for the x-intercept, it's similar. You're essentially switching the roles of the variable. In other words, you're going to set y to be 0, and then you're going to solve for x. So we replace y with 0 in our equation. We're going to get 3x minus 4 times 0 plus 1 is 0. Okay, well, what happens? Well, 4 times 0 we know is 0, so this really becomes 3 times x plus 1 is 0. Excuse me. So we have this equation to solve for x. So what do we do? Well, this is our equation. We want to get x all alone. So what do? Subtract 1 from each side. Right? And we get 3x equals negative 1. But we don't want 3x, we want x. So what do? We divide by 3. As you can see, we divide both sides by 3. And so we're left with x on the left. On the right here, we get negative 1/3, which is about negative 0.33. Again, I'll tell you how many decimal places to round off to. I just chose 2 kind of randomly, but we get negative 0.33, comma 0. So this is the x-intercept. This is the point where the line intersects the x-axis. And if you were to graph it, this is how I graphed it in, I think this is GeoGebra. But for the worksheet today, I give you questions like that. I'll show you how to graph it in Desmos. So from here, you would have the x-intercept, and here's the y-intercept. So this is what the line would look like. Okay. Any questions on that? Okay, well, that's one way to do it. Now, based on my experience teaching this course, most students do not like to graph graph a line like this, whose equation is like this in standard form. They don't like to graph it by finding 2 points and connecting the dots. What they like to do is to solve for y in terms of x, then find 2 points. So in a sense, they're doing the same thing. They're just, in my opinion, they're just doing more work. But let me just go through how to do that, though. You know, as long as you learn this stuff and you understand what's happening, that's really what I care about. So I'm going to show you the way, from what I have seen, how most students would do it. Let's get y in terms of x. So we have 3x minus 4y plus 1 is 0. Okay, so what do we do here? Well, we're going to so we want to get y in terms of x. Well, let's get y all by itself. How do we do that? We can add 4y to both sides. So we have 3x plus 1 is 4y. Okay, so y is alone. Next, I just interchange both sides of the equation. Right? So we have 4y equals 3x plus 1. But again, we want to get y all alone. We don't want 4y, we want y, so we divide by 4. So we get y equals 3x over 4 plus 1 over 4. And that's our equation here. Okay, so again, most students would do this first. Then they're going to get 2 points on the line. Right? So again, you're still going to get 2 points on the line. Okay, so let's take x to be 0 and find y. When x is 0, you're going to get the y-intercept, right? Which is what we got already. Now, to make it easy, let's also choose a different x value. I mean, theoretically, you could choose a value for y and solve for x. But let's choose a different x value. We get x equals 1, let's say. But 1 I chose arbitrarily. You could choose -1. You know, you could choose 10. You know, you could choose really any number you want for x. But I chose x to be 1. When you plug it in, 3 times 1 over 4 plus 1 over 4. What do we get? We get 3 over 4 plus 1 over 4, which is 1. So we get 1, 1. That's another point on the line. We have our 2 points, right? What do? We plot them and connect. We plot the points, and then we connect them by drawing the line. This is actually by Desmos. Like so. I mean, if we were teaching face-to-face, I would draw this by hand, but I'll draw it by Desmos for you guys. Well, actually, I did, and I will do that on the worksheet. Okay. All right, so let's do another example. Are there any questions about this first? Okay. So for this one, right, 5x minus 4y equals 10. Let's graph this thing. And I'm going to approach it doing what I have seen most students do. But it's not wrong. It's just, to me at least, I think it's more work. But if you're happy, you're happy. But anyway, let's get y in terms of x. So what do? From here, we're going to subtract 5x from both sides. We're trying to get y all alone. Okay, so that's what I do first. I subtract 5x from both sides, right? Okay. And we get negative 4y equals negative 5x plus 10. Excuse me. But we want to get y all alone, right? What we want to do is get y all alone. So we divide by negative 4. Right? You divide both sides by negative 4. The negative 4's cancel, we get y. On the right, we have this. But remember, you have to divide into each term in the sum, in the numerator, that is. So we get negative 5x over negative 4 plus 10 over negative 4. You know, I've seen students, they would not divide negative 4 into each term. You have to divide into each term now. And so we get 5x over 4 minus 10 over 4. So this is our equation, that is, rewritten in an equivalent way.